Thank you very much. Is the mic in the right place? Audible? Okay. So I'm a grad student. I work in the area that's called commutative algebra. People get a lot of things wrong about commutative algebra, but I feel bad for making fun of people for things that they don't know, so I think I'm going to start by making fun of myself. I don't really know a lot about biology, and this was really driven home over Christmas. Oops. I visited my sister-in-law, Nicole, who's a marine biologist, and she was kind enough to show me around her lab. She studies these turtles that are called diamondback terrapins that are endangered because they were overhunted in the past. And the best I can really tell you about her research is that she samples for DNA in the saltwater to try and estimate population sizes without having to actually capture any turtles. But that's as far as I can get. Because, let me tell you, when I stepped in that lab, Toto, I was not in Kansas anymore. If we wanted to get close to the turtles, we had to wash our hands and cover our feet, which is a new experience to me. Nobody has ever accused me of contaminating math. Never had to cover my feet to walk in a math building. When we went to her lab, it was just jam-packed with all of this equipment, and I had no idea what those machines were for. The only machine that I really thought I could recognize was canisters that were holding gas. And I don't know what gas was in them, but that's what they did. And I really showed what a rube I was when we went to her personal office, and I said, oh, wow, I'm so jealous. Your department lets you have a full-size fridge in your own room? That must be so convenient. And it's full of blood and test tubes and samples. And I thought I was going to find leftovers and sandwiches. Right, I'm in a biology lab. Duh. So I've only got like a high school level of education in biology, and I get a lot of things wrong. But the average person's ignorance of math is in a completely different league entirely. But I need a little help right now, because I'm allegedly trying to tell you about this, this average person, straw man, supposedly what he does and does not know. But my audience here, you are mostly STEM folks. You don't exactly have the average, man on the streets math background. So I brought along some help. Good friend of mine, one of my most frequent debate partners, someone I've seen quoted thousands of times in print, radio, and TV, a literal straw man. He's 4 days old. His name is Steve. So, Mr. Steve the Straw Man, I would like to ask you some questions about math to get the average person on the street's perspective. So I'm just going to name sort of some very general things about my research, and then you can just sort of share your thoughts. So my specialty is what they call asymptotic resurgence of monomial ideals. Care to share what you think about that? Let me jot that down real fast. Fascinating. Okay, I may have stacked the deck against him a little bit. That is my own very narrow specialty, so maybe I should ask him a more broader question, one step up the Venn diagram. How do you feel about symbolic powers? Okay, all right. I'll try a third time then. Let me get even more general. My field is just called commutative algebra. Anything you would like to share with the audience at all about commutative algebra? Okay. Well, our grainy friend over here, his silence is no surprise. The average person doesn't have one single stinking clue what it is I do. They don't know anything about commutative algebra, my genre of math, because they don't even know that math comes in genres. That the fields of me and my friends are as closely related to each other as, say, painting, photography, and sculpture. I hear people say math when what they mean is arithmetic. And if you're going to say that, you might as well say poetry when what you meant was spell checking. Far from being able to give you sort of one coherent sentence about turtle biology and that's it. This is another beast entirely. I don't really understand marine biology. I didn't recognize a single machine in that lab, but I've heard of turtles, and I'm aware of the ocean. But when it comes to math, my friends, I tell you the truth, it's as if people have never heard of the ocean. And on one hand, that's kind of great. It's so just unbelievably foreign that some people take it as if I'm this demigod genius for studying math. And remember, they're wrong. I was the guy who was surprised to find blood in a biology lab. Just keep that in mind. But on the other hand, it's intensely frustrating. What on earth am I supposed to do about a misconception that is so deep and wide? How could I even say one single word about turtle DNA sampling when none of my friends, family, or acquaintances are even aware that salt water exists? So I can't tell you what commutative algebra is. Certainly not in 10 minutes. And so I won't. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how it makes me feel. And when I do, I think what you're going to find is it's not so strange after all. But the second part of this talk is a little more serious than the first, so I think we're going to put the kids to bed. I don't want to hurt his feelings. He is only 4 days old. Studying commutative algebra is terrifying. Oops. The pioneers in my field are literally some of the smartest human beings in history. And even the colleagues that I work with day to day are genuinely brilliant people, and a lot of times it feels like I'm an ant among whales. And even on the rare occasions where I feel like I'm on equal footing with the people that I'm working with, the sheer volume of information is shocking. Dozens of papers published every single day, every corner of the globe. How exactly am I supposed to pretend that I'm keeping up? I think to myself, surely I've got to be the stupidest man on the face of the planet. And any second now, the math department admissions committee will tell me they've realized their mistake and that I should clear out my desk. But commutative algebra is also exciting. How cool is it that there exist giants whose shoulders that I can stand on? How amazing is it that there's this global network of people who are smart, dedicated, and talented that are eager to share their research with me. And I might not be able to do all of it, but I can do something. And most importantly to me, commutative algebra is beautiful. I really love what I do. I can read a theorem that will just absolutely cut me to the quick, the same way how in the winter I'll step outside into the freezing air, and the first breath is so cold that it cuts me all the way down into my gut. And my work is in pure math, and so that means I'm not restricted by anything except my imagination. And so I see things that are finer than any jewelry and sweeter than any song every single day. Commutative algebra is amazing, and so is your field. Aren't your fields also filled with wonder and passion and excitement? Isn't this the exact feeling that made you get into what you do? Don't you go through those awful, awful hours where you feel like you're never going to make it because you think your work is just so cool? So you might be in this chair, metaphorically. You may not have recognized any of those words that I put up on the screen. You may feel like, metaphorically speaking, you've never heard of my ocean, but you've swum in it. Thank you.